Welcome to our Sunday night program starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, United States, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones in between, and all time zones around the world. We are here. We have many people listening from all around. It's exciting. Tonight, we're talking about financial problems that could be caused by past lives. Again, why are we talking about that? We're talking about that because of what Spiritism tells us. Spiritism gives us the absolute truth about karma and reincarnation. The two go together. When we have reincarnation and our life is created by what we've done the previous life, all the process is called karma, and the process is created for our next life as we are living this life now. What we do depends on what our next life is going to be. So, good evening, Barry and Rosalind. I'm so happy to have you both here. So, we are talking about that. But first, I want to talk about where I was yesterday. I went to a very big book convention in Rio de Janeiro, and it was wonderful to see so many. Hello, Soul. It was wonderful to see so many of books by Spiritist books, and here is the little area where they had from FEB, the Federation of Spiritism Brasileiro, and they had books by Allan Kardec, Chico Xavier, Ivan Piera, just all sorts of wonderful spirits books. I can't wait to see something this big or this many people come to it sometime in the United States. Also, I had the pleasure of, there's another pavilion. I'll show this to you. Oops, wrong one. And this is another Spiritist book publisher, and they have books by Divaldo Franco, Geraldo de Dutras, which is the second person there. And then it's Chico Xavier is the last person. Luckily, my wife had a book autograph by Geraldo Dutra Diaz and told him that, we were here trying to help in the United States. And he said, give a hug to Vanessa Anzalone, because of course, he knows Vanessa. And so I'm giving you the shout out from Geraldo Dutra Diaz that he also is very appreciative of all your efforts. For people who don't know, Vanessa is behind Kardec Radio Facebook page, Kardec Spiritist Magazine, I should say, all sorts of things. She works tirelessly for Spiritism. So, and I've known her for, I don't know how many years now, quite a few years. It's amazing. Time goes by. But anyway, there was wonderful, wonderful books. And just to kind of show you the things that, some of the books that I like is I like books, that have a historical context. Oh, Drika Maravilla. Very good. Maravilla, I should say, you said. So this is one of the wonderful books I recommend. Of course, you can get this on the EDICEI bookstore site, which people may have noticed that if you click on the picture of Allan Kardec, the EDICEI bookstore site is down a little bit, but I was assured at the bookstore, at the book pavilion, it should be up in October, and then you can rebuy. And I'll relink that. Right now, I'm linking it to the Spiritist Society in New York. They also have books available, and this is 2019 for those people on podcast. So, but this is one of the books. I just love the books by Emmanuel. 2,000 years ago, 50 years after. 2,000 years ago is about the spirit of Emmanuel when he was a senator in Rome and his interaction with Jesus and his family. It's a great book. But this is kind of a long introduction to some other books I saw there. And of course, I'm sure there's not everybody is interested like I am in some of these things, but there's one. Here's some new books that, of course, they're in Portuguese. I told my wife I am envious of her, which I shouldn't be. Oh, good. So you just started reading 2,000 years ago today. Yes, it's a great book. And here's the Young Gladiator, the O Jovem Gladiador. And so these books like this, and these are not fiction per se. These are actually written. They are psychographed by mediums. And of course, the book 2,000 years ago that soldiers started reading was psychographed by Chico Xavier. Emmanuel was his spirit mentor. And this is actually his story of his life during that time. And I won't go too far in that book because I don't want to ruin it for Soul, but it is a wonderful book. And then after you read that book, Soul, you should read 50 Years After. And then after that one, Hell Christ is another great book by Emmanuel. So I would recommend all of his books. So I just want to give that and make sure that Vanessa knew that we had a shout out to her. I know she's probably too busy to listen to me all the time, but if she does at a later date, hopefully she'll know that her friends in Rio are thinking of her. So wonderful. That's it. Everybody knows Vanessa. So, okay, let's get to what we're supposed to be talking about today. So we are talking about problems, financial problems that could be caused by past lives. And of course, and Soul says, yes, I have both. Great. You're going to be in good shape for a while here. So I talk about what is happening to you today because of what happened to you in a past life. In my book, The Problem is the Solution: 7 Life Complications Sent to Test and Teach You. Now, when I'm going to post this video on YouTube and BitChute after we're done with our live streaming. So for anyone who wants that book or links to my website or other books, I have it all in the text below. But I recommend you, the best way is to go to my website, nwspiritism.com. You'll see all my books on the right-hand side navigation bar. Or you can click on Allan Kardec. It'll send you to a bookstore where there's lots of Spiritist books. I recommend you survey anything you can. Of course, the first one, of course, I would like you to read is The Spirits book by Allan Kardec. And in fact, the movie Allan Kardec is out on Netflix. I saw that. It has great subtitles. You can also, of course, you can do whatever you want to select in Netflix. It's wonderful. It's also dubbed if you prefer having it dubbed. So I would recommend, please tell your friends about the movie Allan Kardec on Netflix. It is excellent. It tells you about what he went through, how he discovered Spiritism, how at first he thought it was just a bunch of magic, charlatanism. So yes, so I would recommend, please tell your friends to watch that movie. I think it helps. So what we're talking about now is what happens when you have problems, what you should do. Now, tonight we're going to talk about financial problems. Let's see. Oh, yes, quanta energy, boa nessa momento. So there's lots of energy at this moment. That's what Drika says. Oh, and Soul says, I love them. Also, Soul saw the movie, so he gives it a thumbs up. And then if you like the movie Allan Kardec, look for the movie No Solar or Astral City. Actually, you'll see it. You can rent that. It's subtitled. It's not dubbed, but that's the first of the Andre Luis books by Chico Xavier, which I would recommend to everybody. You will not forget that movie. In fact, my wife and I and family, we kind of watch that like once a year. So let's talk about problems you have now, which were caused by past lives. In fact, I was just reading the book After Death by Leon Denis, and you can get that. I haven't found that on PDF, but I have found it. I got it on Kindle on Amazon. And it is, you can, of course, get it paperback, but I haven't found a PDF. But you can find a lot of Leon Denis books on PDF. But it is a wonderful book. And in fact, I was just reading part of it called After Death. And he was saying, if you really look at your life and you analyze the trials and tribulations you're going through, you can kind of figure out what you did before, right? Because Spiritism tells us that we must learn from our past mistakes. And how do we learn from our past mistakes? We are assigned trials and tribulations, to go through in this life. And I tell you, if you can really internalize that, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. I'll learn from that. And it's really tough. And for me, it was very difficult with money problems. And it's no wonder that the vast majority of us, if not all, experience problems with money. Ever since humans have graduated from tribes and the barter system, the pursuit of wealth has been tied to practically every aspect of our lives. It's in our culture, right? If you don't make a bunch of money, you're a failure. It's like, oh yeah. The people who make a lot of money are considered, okay, you're a genius because you made a lot of money. That doesn't mean they really are a genius, but in our culture, it kind of says, well, yeah, you're smarter than I am because you made money. So Soul says, do you like the movie? Oh, yes, I love the movie. I probably didn't see it until just now. I love the movie Alan Kardec and also Astral City, which is No Solar in Portuguese. I think they're both great. And in fact, here in Rio, in Brazil, I should say, I think next week there's a movie coming out about the life of Divaldo Franco, but I don't know when it would be ready for subtitles and so forth. So I'll let you know about that too. So let's talk about wealth. So why do we want money? Well, we want it for power. We desire it for the luxury it supplies. We crave it for the security it promises us. Men know that money delivers them the most attractive women, while women long for the freedom to gather whatever is required, right? What they want, right? When we are young, money fixes all of our difficulties. Youth has no patience listening to anyone complaining who has more ready cash than they do. We've all been there, have we not? Our media, internet, radio, everything, social media, broadcast thousands of goods which would solve our problems. That's what advertising is all based on. So, they're very smart. They took what Freud taught and then they used that for advertising. So if we only got that good, we would feel more comfortable. We'd feel happier. That's how they get under our radar. It's very smart. So if we only had the money, then we could buy the goods and then we would be happy, just like those people in that ad, right? And we're surrounded by items we urgently desire, but are always, for some reason, out of reach because we have too much debt or whatever. And studies have been performed, this is very interesting, showing a constant thirst for additional wealth. From the poorest to the wealthiest, people want 25% more income, thinking that just this little increase will allow them to attain their goal. I thought that study was just wonderful because it really tells everything about human nature, doesn't it? If you just had that little more, and we've all done it in my life. I have. If I just had that extra, then I would feel secure. And of course, that all comes from our primitive emotions that served us very well in previous lives, right? If you just had that 25% more saved up or cows or whatever, and things went bad fast, you could survive. You could eat enough. You would live. Your family would live. The tribe would go on. We don't need that as we used to before. So this is all this whole being on a planet of atonement is all about starting to replace our primitive emotions with more civilized emotions and ways of thinking. And the problem is with what money does to us is once you base your life, self-image and happiness on money, the treadmill never stops. I know I've been on there. Using others as a measure, you seem to focus on those with more and ignore the world of unseen poverty. You don't see it anymore. You're just looking at what's above you, right? Hence, it's no mystery that we have financial problems. If we only lived one life, we'd still have challenges with handling our assets. Throw in paying our past debts and our required hard lessons, the number of trials we must survive quickly multiply. Think of the times that you feel guilty the way you handled money in this life, either by not paying or giving too little or taking advantage of others, all because of money. I know I have certainly felt bad about actions I've taken in the past, and now ponder back further when you were in your past lives, a less mature and maybe a less honest soul. Imagine the schemes you pulled to increase your hoard of gold. So, so therefore, I was just reading the comments. So DSSC feels really good right now, very calm. That's excellent, Drika. So was I, or am I? Yes. Therefore, the fact that the spirit world assigns us lessons so we may understand the true value of exchange, the pitfalls and the benefits should come as no surprise. We need to learn that, right? We must learn to do with little as well as a lot. We must learn to treat others as we wish to be treated, even when it concerns money. The golden rule, according to our betters in the spirit realm, also applies in this circumstance, meaning we should pay a fair price for any type of goods or labor we purchase. And I know this is difficult. And if you're going through a hard time right now and you're seeing these people with a lot of money, it's human nature to be a bit envious. But remember this, at some time in the past, you have been the richest person in the room. Probably, no doubt. You've also probably been the poorest person in the room. You may have been the downtrodden slave on some, you know, galley in Roman, right? Sitting there having a very short lifespan, right? Rowing that galley. Or you could have been the owner of 10 galleys and made a lot of money with those slaves working for you. We've all been on both sides, probably paying back past atonements, right? Past wrongs, and for other reasons. But when they say money is the root of all evil, does the spirit world agree with that? The answer is no. Spirit world does not say money is evil. And the answer is not to return to a primitive world where money is gone. There's just a barter system. Money is necessary to build infrastructure, fund companies, encourage inventions, and amass wealth to promote ventures to employ our hardworking fellow beings. Emmanuel, the spirit mentor for Francisco Chico Xavier, who brought us more than 450 books, wrote about money in one of the messages he delivered to Chico Xavier. This is what he said about money. Bless money so money may bless you. In fact, our lives do not depend on it, but money in itself consists of a valuable support for progress upon which life is improved. It is not love, however, it instills the sympathy and recognition in which, quite often, love appears in fountains of light. It is not health, yet it ensures the medicine that fights the infirmity. It is not peace, but it is a factor of equilibrium, either promoting work or extinguishing many of the debts that torment the spirit. It is not happiness. Nevertheless, it can create joy for us by means of the good that it can distribute. Perhaps you may say, filled with bitterness of having watched so many go down the precipice of delinquency for not having been able to use it safely and productively, I should say. On our part, however, we take the liberty to ask if you know the entire inventory of the pain that money suppresses, of the tears it dries, of the affliction it undoes, of the cultural enterprises it supports, of the consolation it spreads, of the hope it sows, of the good work it performs, of the lives it saves, of the suicide and other crimes that it manages to prevent, of the industries that it encourages and maintains, of the intelligences it improves, or of the blessings of joy that it distributes. Neither censure the coin fortune or condemn those who keep it as they take on responsibilities and direct those fortunes to purposes we ignore. On earth, money is a lever that divine providence places in our hands. In managing it, one can marginalize the heart to darkness as much as one can assemble the luminous path toward greater life. In summary, money comes from God, but it is imperative to recognize that its usage comes from us. So, he's very wise, Emmanuel. So when he says its usage comes from us, and that's an important factor to keep in mind, we should direct money. Money should not direct us. Money is not inherently evil or good. It all depends upon our decision. It is one more tool that we need to learn to utilize correctly. It's difficult since wealth is a device loaded with passion and power simultaneously. When we gain it, we are in ecstasy. When we lose it, we are in purgatory, right? It's hard to find anything like it outside of love and hate that has such a lasting influence on our emotional state. Hence, why we have trials to teach us the relative importance of money. Until we realize it is a tool for good and not for complete self satisfaction, to extract revenge, to show off, any other form of vanity of selfishness, only then will we be free of the trials where we obsess over gold. Have you ever read anywhere about people who have had visions of heaven, either from near death experiences or communication from high spirits, who report that the recently deceased were able to bring their money with them? I haven't, right? Every time you read about near death experiences, no one comes back and say, boy, I sure wish I could make more money, or I wish I had more money so I could, buy a bigger funeral casket. No, no one has. I've not seen anyone. I've read lots of them. Everyone, most people, I don't know about everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, come back and say, okay, they understand what's important. What's important? Improving themselves in this life. Therefore, money is an earthly construct to provide an ability to transfer goods and unit of labor from one person to another. It is a convenient and extremely efficient method of exchange. Nothing more, nothing less. And it all goes away once we shed ourselves of our physical body, right? When we become a spirit and we lose the cumbersome, dense outer layer we hold around for decades, our needs are dramatically reduced. We are more energy, hence food is less vital. Our thoughts, our actions, as an example, we create our own appearance, even our clothes, with our mind. We have no need to go to the local heavenly emporium and pick out a new robe and sandals. Now, eventually, our planet will evolve to a superior world. In Spiritism, it is called a regenerative world. That's where a lot of Spiritists say we are on the path right now. We are just started that first section of being on the path to be a regenerative world, where people are promoted for their merit and their service to others. A world where essentially everyone is one of the categories spanning the middle classes. You're not going to have this immensely rich controlling everything. We are being groomed to consider money as just another small detail of our lives. When hate, envy, selfishness, and jealousy are removed, then the need to hoard coin is also removed. The motivation to accumulate wealth over and above all else will be replaced by the intellectual simulation of devising new methods to help others. Now, let's talk about trials that you may, or I have gone through now. What does that mean? Let's talk about what happens when you lose a lot of money. This happened to me a couple times. And boy, was it painful. Now, I don't know. Have you lost a great deal of money? The exact amount is important. What is vital that you felt the loss was a tremendous blow to your plans. Keep in mind again that money is the root of all evil. Selfishness is. Money is just one of the aspects of our tendency to think more of ourselves than others. The Spirit books tells us why this is true. On question 913, which among the vices may be regarded as the root of the others? And the answer is selfishness. As we have repeatedly told you, for it is from selfishness that everything evil proceeds. Study all the vices, and you'll see that selfishness is at the bottom of them all. Combat them as you will never succeed in extirpating them until, attacking the evil in its root, you have destroyed the selfishness which is their cause. Let all your efforts tend to this end, for selfishness is the veritable social gangrene. Whoever would make, even in his earthly life, some approach towards moral excellence must root out every selfish feeling from his heart, for selfishness is incompatible with justice, love, and charity. It neutralizes every good quality. Therefore, we want money because of what it can do for us in order to make ourselves feel better and attain whatever we desire. We may have, in some previous life, committed an unconscionable act. Given the pervasiveness of our money-grabbing ways, it is no wonder that many of us are slated to learn the lesson of how it feels to lose it. So, as I said before, I've had to suffer through this trial, and it has happened to me a couple of times. The spirit world knew I was hard headed and a bit slow, so I was already destined to repeat the course. In my life, each time I've received a windfall, either through a payoff from stock options or a company I worked for was sold and thusly given a rather large check to leave, thank you very much, I ended up with next to nothing. I am brilliant in that I have consistently managed to squander my precious pile of money. Now, it's not big. It's, six figures. To some people, that'd be a lot, real low six figures. Other people, that would be nothing. But to me, it was a lot. And after each terrible blow of seeing my path to leisure dissipate, or at least my security, I suffered internally. Oh, my heavens. I replayed my idiot decisions over and over again. I experienced great emotional turmoil while railing at my stupidity. And believe me, I didn't bet it on the horses. I didn't use drugs. I didn't do, I thought I was making prudent investments, stock investments. Of course, they were all wrong. That's how idiot I was. So and then each time when I thought I was doing something that would have a decent return, right? Not the minimal return. I took risk. I knew they were risk, but the fact that they went down solo to almost nothing was just amazing. And then, if I just heard myself saying that, 5 or 6 years ago, I think, what a putz, right? The guy's a putz. Now, yes, I am. I'm a testament to the truism that life has a way of proving one's pride wrong time after time. I should be more accurate and say the spirit world will push the lesson we need to learn as hard as it is needed to make an everlasting impression. I can only surmise I had resisted some previous attempts to thwart my yearning for ill-gotten gains. Say they weren't large, right? And I've been broke, and I've been broke where I had less than a month living in the bank with debts and no assets except the house I had to sell in order to pay off what I had. Oh, there's Jacob. Hello. And Adriano, hello to you. So yes, I have been down there, and at the same time, as an added bonus, I was out of work for most of the time. I worked as a consultant wherever I could. All this occurred after the year 2000 economic downturn. A lot of people won't remember that. That was exacerbated by the September 11th, 2001 tragedy. Most of us remember the 2007, 2008, 6 Great Recession, which was the last one we really went through. But this was like the precursor of the first of it. And boy, was it hard to find a job, especially in the IT industry. So as what happened to me, as the gross national product headed downward, I did too, right? Losing what was so important to me made me very depressed, despondent, and disoriented. I allowed self-pity to sweep over me like swamp fog, right? An odor of decay settled in my soul. I reacted to my plight in the exact opposite of how I should have acted. Everything I tell people so they may prosper in their times of troubles, I violated. If there's a grade lower than an F, then that would have been mine. What was worse is that after I recovered, I had learned nothing at the time. It took me till I got to when I discovered Spiritism that I finally learned my lesson. Now, upon reflection, I did discover a few facts. One, life didn't stop without money. It's stressful trying to survive and get back on your feet, but it did focus my resolve and swept away the cobwebs in my mind, right? It released me of plans that would have solved nothing, like, oh, I want that extra car, or I want that, summer home, right? All those like this, gone. I discovered that my daily routine wasn't much altered. I simply discarded that which I couldn't afford with lowered expectations, and I gained peace of mind. The spirits tell us that self-denial is like pruning a tree, that you grow stronger the more material you shed. Any wealth, property, or assets we accumulate are all temporary. All physical items decay. All leave our grasp the moment our spirit is free of our body. We are left with who we are. Someday, knowing that you are immortal, the whole earth will decay away. There'll be nothing. Whatever you think is important to you now will not be important in, who knows how many lives. And I've forgotten how many more billions of years the Earth will last, but in some point in time, when the Earth becomes a red giant, or the Earth stops, the Earth is slowing its rotation, stops rotating, all life will be gone from Earth. So nothing we have is going to be forever here in the material plane, right? What we have forever is in the spirit plane. And that's why when we change from our spirit, right, in its first place in the body of a newborn to the death, that's a sum total. All we have is a sum total of the lessons we have learned. Our evolution consists of a strengthened sense of purpose, our capacity for self-discipline, our ability to calmly march through rugged terrain. The only differential in the level of our character counts towards our ascendancy. The spirit realm will replay this little edifying drama, whatever they're supposed to learn, right? For me, it's money, right? As many times as it takes. Who knows the number of fortunes I've lost in previous lives? I shudder to think how stubborn I was before I finally grasped the truth. Now, why did I have to do this? What did I do in my previous lives? Well, I've been told in meetings, in medium meetings, I've been given letters by spirits saying that I was in charge of people. I don't know in what capacity, but what I did, instead of helping them, I took money from them. I went after treasure instead of being responsible towards those who I had, direction over. Those people in my charge, I used them instead of helped them. And I think, okay, that makes total sense. And then what's happens though, what the spirit world doesn't just teach you one thing; it teaches you multiple things. And that's why we need to learn. We really need to analyze what we've gone through and learn the lessons we need to learn. Now, think of it like as a director guides an actor to reshoot a scene over and over until it's right. Our betters in the spirit world know us all too well. We are a familiar quantity to them, and the severity of the plan to modify our best behavior fits perfectly with our previous performance. Therefore, in hindsight, I rejoice in my suffering, for it repairs a fundamental defect that I had allowed to remain in place for far, far too long. To me, money was way too important. Now, am I saying give up everything and wear a hair shirt? No, I'm saying is be happy with what you have. Don't get in debt. Live according to your means. Save for a rainy day, right? The spirit world says all these things are wonderful. If you have lots of money, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's take some other examples, not just me. There's a story in the book, Memoirs of a Suicide, another book I really recommend. It's a great book by Yvonne Pereira. And this book illustrates how plans are made for us in accordance to what we did in our previous life. Now, this book is really about Camilo's life in the spirit world after he had committed suicide. Now, in the book, Camilo talks about he's in a hospital for people recovering from their terrible mistake, right? Suicides. All of the people in this hospital were all suicides. And he makes friends with a group of his contemporaries. And each of them has their own story of why they made the choice that led them to be together, right? One of his comrades is getting ready for a trip back to Earth to live again, to restart the lessons he so sorely requires. Now, his friend's name is Geronimo. He defrauded what he did in his previous life because why he created suicide. He defrauded his business associates, lost all of his money, and fled the situation he created by committing suicide. He cowardly abandoned a wife, a son, and 3 daughters. He left them all destitute. Then Geronimo tells his friends about his plans for his next life. Now, notice I say he tells his friends about his plans for the next life. As I think that with the vast majority of us, we in concert with our spirit mentors help plan what we are going, our trials and tribulations in the life we are living now. This is what he said. I won't be able to have children by not looking after my family, by rejecting halfway through the honorable responsibility of being head of the household in order to help me ascend in merit. I put myself in the wretched position of not being granted the chance of building a family and being a father again in my next existence. However, in order to mitigate my ugly behavior towards my wife and children, I promised Mother Mary, the sublime mother of my Redeemer, whose materials solicitude rehabilitated Margarita and Albino. To employ all my effort, those were the names of his daughters. To employ, actually, what they did, and let me say this, what they did in the spirit world is if you have a family and they'll say, okay, we're going to help your family because they want to help everybody. We're going to help them. These poor Margarita and Albino were both very, had no money, right? The father left them nothing. So they helped them find a good position, find some shelter, right? Find someone to help them. So Geronimo says he's going to employ all my efforts when he is his next life to assist orphan children and to somehow build shelters for them and to become their guardian as if they were my own. So Geronimo has planned for his future life to compensate for what he did in his previous life. He also has planned his financial status in his next life. His friends express happiness in his helping orphans, but they're worried that he will not have the financial resources to follow through. Then he informs them that at first he will be rich, born into a wealthy family. Next, this is what he says. May heaven allow it, indeed, my friends, because before or after the financial ruin that awaits me during my expiatory existence, I shall become the supporter of many, many orphans. So notice how for each of his major failings, he'll have to redeem himself in one way or another. Once again, he shall recognize the despair of bankruptcy and the complete withdrawal of all of his old friends. He shall deeply feel the pull of suicide, but if he wishes to be victorious in his new life, he'll have to resist that urge with all of his abilities. Again, this is another theme you read about that with suicides. What they will do is a suicide at the same age they were in their previous life in which they committed suicide. They will again feel that urge to commit suicide. They're going to have to stop. They're going to have to say, no, I'm not doing that. So to repair his thirst for wealth, the spirituality, God, the spirit realm, whatever you want to say, doesn't take the easy path and place him in poverty for his next life. That would be punishment. No. Instead, a plan of education for him has been created. We're not just being reprimanded in our lives. We are being taught. This is why I want everyone to make sure you are never being punished. You are being taught. It's like when you're in second grade and you're given a test. Oh, I'm being punished. I have to do the spelling test. No, you're being taught. Your parents will say you're being taught. Your other friends will probably tell you you're being punished, but that's friends at that age, right? So what does that mean? So he'll once again experience a life of luxury and all that entails. Next, he shall see what it feels like to lose all that he had, to sense what the men and women felt when he stole their money in his previous life. He shall comprehend the brutal side of society which ignores those without, for he will be a non-person to his old acquaintances after his fall. Now, the spirit realm doesn't leave Geronimo a broken man. He is allowed to remain with the love of the orphans he contributed to when he had money. He will understand love given without seeking recompense. He will be among children who want more than money from him. They want to be loved and to give love. His heart, if he so chooses to grasp the full experience, will grow immensely. If you stood next to Geronimo on his planned journey, you would see a man destroyed and doomed to a life of suffering amongst the poor children he had once helped. Instead, if you stood on a pedestal peering over the course of both of his lives, you would see an action caused by selfishness, a necessary lesson concerning the effect of what he did, then a redemption and a personal growth. At the end of his second life, you wouldn't consider Geronimo a broken man, but a man who had acquired character and knowledge, a man with a deep comprehension of the importance of love, responsibility, fraternity, and charity, a man ready to advance to the next level. So, let's go on. Let's go on with more lessons. So take heart and let's talk about envy. Don't envy those who drive the latest cars and get to relax on the luxurious yachts. They all have their own arc of intensive training ahead of them. In a past or future life, you too will have been or will be in that position. You shall know appearances are deceiving. Being rich is a trial full of perils. Maintaining your humility, love, and fraternal sense is difficult. Most will fail. It takes a mature spirit to know how to utilize God's gift of wealth. That's why they're saying being rich is one of the hardest trials. And when you're rich, it must be employed for good, to build edifices for society at large, to prepare the world to be a kinder and gentler place. An article in Allan Kardec's monthly magazine that he published in 1850s provides clues. Well, big thunder out here in Rio right now. To how the spirit world will set up trials for us. A group of mediums talked to a recently deceased spirit. He was well known in the community as a miser. They talked to him because there had been reports that his spirit had roamed some of the houses that he once owned. The spirit was born fairly well off. He had multiple houses and he rented rooms in each of the houses. To maximize his income, he lived under the stairs in a tiny room in one of his homes. It was known that he loved counting his money. The group talked to the spirit and found he gravely lamented the loss of his properties and his gold. He could not see anything but his material possessions he had while living. He was trapped on earth, longing for what he no longer had. The group, this medium group, who talked to the spirit, then asked a high spirit how the miser got himself into this position. They were told that this particular individual was a primitive spirit who had asked to be born rich in his next life. As a lesson for him, they allowed this to happen. That's why I always say, be careful what you pray for. They might give it to you. His spirit guides knew he couldn't handle this situation, but the spirit world let him exercise his free will. Of course, it ended tragically with the miser lost in the farthest regions of his mind, lusting after that which he could no longer touch. The group was told that after a sum of years, the miser will understand his error. With guidance from above, his love of money will dissipate, and he will understand where his priorities should be. And that's the moral tale we all need to take to heart. The miser and all of us will eventually realize the bounty or absence of coin is of relative unimportance to our greater goal. Putting wealth in its proper place amongst the attributes of love, charity, and fraternity is a life lesson that will be fully repaid 100-fold as we continue up the ladder to become a pure spirit. This is so important, is to learn, is the how to control money, not let money control you. And this is, again, why the spirit world says, they ask, what are some of the hardest missions? Well, to be rich. Because think of that. If you are rich, you have so many opportunities to be rude to people, to be mean, to be marginally to other ones, because everyone is trying to get your money. And of course, if you're mean to them and you still have a lot of money, they'll come right back to you and ask for more. There's a lot of opportunities to do not good when you have quite a lot of money. Therefore, it is a very hard trial. Now, the spirit world says, and if people have asked, if I have a lot of money and I've done what I think is good for it, should I leave it to my family, right? My children. The spirit world says that if you have money, yes, go ahead and leave it to your children, because God and the spirit world will decide if they get to keep it or not. There's nothing wrong with you having money and giving it to them. But of course, you have to look at all money is all really a loan from God to use for whatever purposes that you were on earth sent for, right? And if you use that just to buy yourself luxuries, that's okay. As long as you're not hurting other ones, all you're doing is hurting yourself, and you're just parking. If you're living a life of richness, then that was a big thunder out there. Then you're just dissipating what you've got. If you use that wealth for good and you're helping people, then you're still humble and you're nice, right? You're gracious and you're consistent. And you have to be hard at some points, right? You always have to say no at some time. But as long as you can, be as fair as possible, then that is a great victory for you. So that's why I don't want anybody to think when I talk about financial problems that, I should get rid of all the money. No, you need to be responsible with it. But this is the great thing about Spiritism, is when you have these trials, when you see what you've done, if you, like me, if you lost money in the stock market, if you've loaned friends and they never paid you back, or you invested in a business and it went broke, well, those are great lessons, actually. And sometimes, like even investing in a business that you tried yourself to make successful, that's not a financial problem. That's really more of a growth to let you know what it takes to become successful. And it shows the stick-to-itiveness and the discipline you need to have. So what I would recommend, because this is just one, and I'll go through other types of situations like marriage and couples in my next Sunday night program, is I would recommend that you analyze what you've been at, right? And don't regret what you've done. If you've done things like I have, right, and lost it, or been rude to people you shouldn't have when you did have money, is don't let that eat you up. Because the Spirit Joanna D'Angelo says that when we have a problem, when we've done something wrong, look at that as an arrow in the quiver and you shoot it out and it's gone, right? Analyze it. Don't get depressed. Don't punish yourself. Learn from this. All the spirit world wants you to do. They don't want you to cut yourself because you did something wrong, or, the old times where they whip yourself, self-flagellation on the back, right? What does that do? Nothing. It does nothing for you. And it puts you in this cycle of depression. It's worthless. Joanna D'Angelo says, no, don't even go there. And of course, she says the only people who are weak who say they are weak. So analyze it, move on, do better next time. The spirit world, if you've learned your lesson, you're not going to go through this again. They're not doing things to say, oh no, you have to be punished for this. No, or it's none of that. It's for our edification, for our to change our character and our attitude and to make ourselves a better person. That's why we go through these things. And that's why the title of the book is The Problem is the Solution, because the solution to your problems on earth is really set to us by the spirit world. They are giving us a clue of what we need to do. Let me go through this too, just one more time, because I think this is a valuable. This is the process of karma. If you really want to understand your life, the two things that Spiritism explains to us in great detail is the process of karma and reincarnation. And it tells us all about reincarnation. In fact, I have a book, Reincarnation, The Case for Reincarnation. So the first process, in the previous life, everything is recorded, everything in detail. The current life, and you probably can't see this here, but results from your previous life determines your current life, right? And everything again is recorded. Now, your next life, your present life is recorded, and it will be used to determine your next life. So what you are now, like this here, see? So current life results from your previous life determines the plan, trials, and episodes of your current life. Then your future life will be based upon what you've done in this life. Oh, and Soul says you can hear the thunder. Absolutely. I know there's some big thunder right close to me. So that's important. And then, therefore, when things come your way, be prepared for them. Understand that they are all there meant for a reason. The problem is the solution. What we are talking about is that you're going through trials and tribulations, which will help you repair your past mistakes. And I'll show you this here. So hopefully there will be links to this book down below. And of course, go to my site, nwspiritism.com, and you can see that book on the right-hand navigation side bar, I should say, and all my other books where I've talked about my series of 3 books, Heaven and Below, Spirits in the Spirit Universe, and how we are guided by spirits, which really tells you a lot about the processes and organization of heaven all around us and the whole around the earth. And then my book, How to Live, which I think is a great one for people who want to understand how to ascend. It's based on 24 stanzas of a poem by Andre Luis, given to Chico Xavier. And it's very short, like 3 or 4 words, but I go into detail what is meant by that, but what the spirit world means by that, and then how do we attain it. All these things will be there to help you understand your life and how to improve your life and what is important. And lastly, if you are interested in learning more about Spiritism, besides reading my books, reading other books, just like Souls, as you're reading, reading 2,000 years ago. These books you can find on the Spiritist website. I'll have links to the Spiritist store on my site. You can look them up on Amazon.com. But if you want to just talk about Spiritism and have us help you go through this and talk about your problems and how, what you can read, what you can do as far as, to help yourself through these, go to spiritismstudy.org. You can scroll down a little bit. You can get an appointment with myself or Sergio. There might be other people volunteering by now. And what I will do is it will send me an email and you'll say that I want to meet, let's say at Thursday at 7 p.m., whatever time zone you're in. I'll send you an email saying, yes, I can do that. And I can meet you by Skype or WhatsApp. Most people have those things. Now you can install it on your phone or your laptop and we'll talk. We'll talk about we can help you learn about Spiritism. There's also Spiritist sites. Hopefully, if you're in a major city somewhere in the United States, probably on the East Coast or the West Coast. Yeah, I know these are few and far between right now. Hopefully, in the future, they won't be. There might be Spiritist groups and Spiritist centers you can go to. If not, think about starting your own once you get into Spiritism. It will pay great dividends to you and your acquaintances. So, I want to thank everyone here tonight for being with me and moving to talking about the spirit world and talking about Spiritism, because to me it is the most wonderful subject in the world, because the more we learn about ourselves, why we are here, what we have to go through, the more we understand, the less stress we have, the clearer we can think, the healthier we are. So I want to tell everyone, God bless everyone tonight. God bless. And see you next week again on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And also, please remember on my blog site, Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us, I am streaming live on every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And I am talking about in the next couple of months, I will talk about different NDEs and how they are interpreted by Spiritism. So God bless everyone and good night.